Good morning, traders. It's Thursday, February 13th. Taking a look at the charts. SP 500 down 0.6%. We're pulling back to the 5-day moving average, which is this light blue line, follows through here. Now, overall, the market, I think it's got a knee-jerk reaction with the coronavirus. It really jumped almost 15,000 cases. It's now almost 60,000 in total. Almost 400, jump in almost 400 deaths in the last 24 hours, which is pretty severe. I think that's playing its toll on the market, and money is moving out of stocks and it's flocking to the safe haven. So we're seeing money out of equities and it's going into bonds and metals. So let's take a look at the short-term trend chart here. More or less, the market, if you can see, we are in this overbought territory. This red hashtag, this is overbought. This means we're oversold. And this is the 20-day moving average, the daily moving up with this 30-minute chart. And more or less, when both of these are together, if the price was to crash down to these levels, not only is it oversold, but it's at the 20-day moving average. The 20-day typically acts as a very strong support zone, at least the first time when it's tagged. You can see here, it sold down, tagged it, and took off. Over here, it came down and tagged it and then took off for a couple days. Usually it acts as a fairly strong support zone, and we are in an uptrend. So if it does come down to that area, it is a new opportunity to potentially add to the position or to get in if you're not in yet, which is almost the same price as we got in over here when the trend went from red to orange and turned into an uptrend. Now let's take a look over at bonds. Bonds are up, they're not up huge, they're only up 0.3%. They were up significantly this morning, but they're pulling back a little bit. Overall, as we know, bonds are in this nice bullish formation, very similar to gold and gold miners, meaning we've broken this falling down trend. We're now in this upward trend with this pennant formation. Pennant formation is, this could be a pennant formation or it could turn into be a bull flag, meaning we see it go up, down, up, down. This is an A, B, C correction. Either way, this is a very bullish pattern still going forward, and it's a launch pad for price to eventually take off and come back up to test these recent highs at minimum. So overall, bonds are trading slightly higher today. If we go and take a look over at metals, gold's up 0.25%, nothing significant, but again, it's flagging sideways. And the nice thing about gold is that it is trading more or less above or at this breakout level. So price broke through and now it's consolidating at this price, taking a breather, and is potentially primed and ready for a very significant run to the upside. If we take a look over at silver, it's up 0.5% this morning. In the grand scheme of things, it's still flagging lower. Silver is more of a speculative play, not so much as a safe haven, which is why gold's outperforming. But silver will play catch up eventually when money starts to flow into precious metals as a broad kind of play. Silver will play catch up and outperform gold. It pretty much always does in the long run. Looking at gold miners, GDX. J, again, similar pattern to bonds. It's consolidating. It didn't break these highs. It's still underperforming in terms of gold, but it's holding its ground here, primed and ready. Again, we still could see this ABC correction, which means we see lower prices. We go A, B, C. Price comes down and breaks this low across here. When it breaks this low, we get panic selling. We get probably some sharp intraday reversal or big sell-off, and then from there it can start to work itself and go higher. But hopefully it will hold this formation and start to break to the upside and start a new rally without us having to go through this potential drop and potentially getting shaken out of the trade depending on how far it drops if it does. More or less, miners are set to gap a little bit higher today. They're stuck in this tiny little pennant formation, so if it can start to break above this pennant formation, that'll be the first early warning sign that it's got momentum to the upside. Then it's got to break this high, this high, this high, and then it's going to have this more significant high. This is a fairly significant one because it's previous highs on the chart. You can see every time the market gapped up here, big money players stepped in and sold the price down. They just kept unloading gold miners at this price. Even when it got back up here a few weeks ago, the same thing, big money stepped in and drove the price back down. So there's big players unloading gold miners, but eventually, or shorting them, driving the price down. Eventually, if it can break above these and hold, I think we're going to see a huge rally in miners, which I've talked about many times. Let's look over at energies. Uh, Natural gas up 0.5% this morning. It is starting to show some pretty big buying volume. Technically, it's still in a downtrend. We're making a series of lower highs. We're making a series of lower lows. It's starting to come up and flirt with this 5-day moving average again. Obviously, it's got to break this previous high. It's got the 20-day moving average, which is a very significant resistance area as well. So we'll let this thing kind of work itself out and try to mature. For all we know, it could pop up and start to build some type of launch pad for it to really break out. 20-day moving average will potentially keep a lid on things. And of course, we've got these highs over here as well for price to get stuck under. But we could start to get a setup here to the upside. We have this increased, our cycles are starting to make some higher highs, meaning we're getting divergence. Each cycle is pushing higher. Price is still falling, but eventually we're going to see things snap and pop, and we're going to see potentially a big breakout and rally here. Looking over at crude, down 0.3% this morning. Overall, it's still stuck in this little basing formation. It's up near the upper end of this range, starting to sell down. We'll see which way it starts to break. We could get into a long oil. If it breaks it downside, we might get into an inverse oil play. But at this point, we're just going to let it continue to mature, build this pattern, and see if it starts to break out in any direction. Last but not least, let's take a quick look over at Bitcoin. Here's Bitcoin. It's been on a nice uptrend here, stair-stepping its way up. Obviously, we've broken this significant pivot high, which is a good sign. We're into this big pennant formation right through the majority of the noise here. We'll see if it starts to build some type of platform, some launch pad, but overall, I'm not too excited to get into to Bitcoin at this point. Anyways, that's it for now. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.